Well, hello there. This is our video on 100N condensate overview. It covers all 5 condensate systems. We're going to make a series of these. Hopefully it'll keep about 15 minutes, maybe 20. We're going to cover a lot of information on them, mostly for historical documents. If anybody has stuff to add, definitely let us know. This is kind of our first attempt at this. But 100N reactor had 5 condensate systems. The main one was Condensate 1. This come off the dump condensers, fed the dump condenser condensate pump, and all return from the Hanford generating project, or WHIPs, come back. Condensate 2 was the discharge of the condensate pumps. It fed the steam generators. At high level, it would dump back to the after heat removal tank through Condensate 3. Condensate 3 was just the spill line. It was a short line, went back to after removal tank. It was about an 18-inch diameter line. Condensate 4 is the interesting one. It was just a short run between the drive turbine hot well and the condensate pump. So it was a really short run. It was under a vacuum since you're pulling out of a surface condenser. From here, the condensate becomes Condensate 5. It came out of the dump condenser condensate pump, went through the 2 steam jet air ejector condensers. Our last video we kind of explained how the steam jet air ejectors work. This went to Condensate 5, and this drawing shows a lot of Condensate 5, but it was really a smaller system. Condensate 1 was the main one. From here, Condensate 5 went up to the deaerator in 184 powerhouse. It fed the deaerator. It took out all the dissolved oxygen. As you're pulling in a vacuum, you'll pick up air coming into your drive turbine and pick up oxygen in the water. So after you go through a steam turbine dumping into a vacuum, you want to deaerate it. Water's deaerated, went down to deaerator storage tank, went down to the boiler feed pumps. From here, it'd feed the 184 boilers, and also the steam turbine generator return come back to the deaerator. Your boiler feed pumps send the water back to condensate 243.3R, and this would go back to the condensate 2 header. It's a 20-inch line here. If you had a high level in the deaerator, you would dump back through the 228 valve, condensate 228, to condensate 3, back to after heat removal tank. This condensate valve 215 was the spill from condensate 2 if you had high levels. There's some question if it's 215. Also saw valve 208. If anybody knows, let us know. I think 215 is correct. 208 may have been a block valve on it. On Condensate 1, this was the main condensate return system. Most of the condensate was coming back from Hanford generating project. It had been deaerated after it went through their steam turbines. He had FPD 6203 valve, went through there, went down to Condensate 1. Also on this, you had your surge tanks. There are 3 surge tanks that provide a net positive suction head for the condensate pumps. You had, coming off the main steam header, that HPV 214. It fed the 10-inch surge tank header. Then you had HPV 234, went to the high pressure return. This is what maintained the pressure. I believe you wanted 3 psi, at least 3 psi differential pressure across this. Your dump condensers, you had HPV 222, that was the block on top, and HPV 201 was the control valve. These sat up on the roof, and they used a hydraulic hydropack to operate them. Your main steam header was up on the 109 roof, and a lot of these main valves were up there. The dump condenser, they got rid of excess steam if the supply system couldn't take all the steam. It was dumped through the condenser. Used raw water to condense the steam, then it was sent down to Condensate 1 header through the condensate valve 203. We always kept a couple of these warm in case there was a load rejection. If supply system tripped off, the excess steam would be dumped through the dump condensers. And also for startup, excess steam would be dumped through the dump condensers till there's sufficient steam to start their turbine generators. Main steam header, 46-inch line. This stuff is broken into sections. I will show that later. This is just a real quick overview. Ran about 135 psi. From condensate 1, went down your dump condenser condensate pumps. There are 16 of these. From there it fed condensate 2, which was the main feedback to the steam generators. Like I say, if it had too much water you had to get rid of, you could use the 215 valve. Steam generators went through condensate valve 216. This was your main level control valve. There's 12 steam generators. Usually had to run 5 cells or 10 steam generators. Coming off these, you had your HPV 202s, which were butterfly valve, and another HPV 202, which was the block valve. I believe the even numbers were the block valves and the odd numbers were the butterfly valve. These are on the roof also, and they're run by a hydropack setup. Coming out of here, your drive turbine hot well. The condensate was pumped out with an equalizing line, so this impeller saw the same pressure, so the height of the water would flow to the pump. It goes from here to the steam jet air ejector condensers. This is a 2-stage steam jet air ejector for your drive turbine condensers. You had 6 primary coolant pump drive turbines. Usually you'd run 1 per cell, so you'd run 5 of them during normal operation. From here it went to condensate 5, and this is kind of a collection header of the steam turbine exhaust. Say the 184 building, steam turbine generator come back in here. All this was in the 184 powerhouse. So the condensate 5 went up here to the deaerator dropped down here, and then to your feed pumps. And then it came back. I believe we'll come back through condensate valve 243 3R. This would feed back into here. Your after heat removal tank. Here's a 500,000 gallon tank. This took all the used condensate, come back here. Normally use your secondary loop makeup pumps. They ran about 450 gallons a minute maximum. They pretty much went just to the deaerator in 184. Then you had your after heat removal pumps. These were 2,500 gallon per minute pumps. These are used for emergency makeup, like reactor scrams, or you need to make a lot of water up. They could feed condensate 1. They move a lot of water to condensate 1 if you had a reactor scram. And then they'd also feed up to the powerhouse deaerator. I believe 2 of these would run demin water and after heat, and then also one of them was just straight after heat. So you could use demin water for these if you didn't have enough in the after removal tank and you had to make it more water in here. It's just your center surge tank, had the controls on it. The outer 2, they were just there for volume control. So this whole setup here was just take care of surge for startup shutdowns, scrams, and it's kind of inventory control that you can maintain the system with. And that's about it for the overview. Our next one will probably be on condensate 1. Like I say, if anybody has any old manuals or anything on this, or have insight, or if you want to present stuff, let us know. We're just kind of doing this just to preserve the history of the place. And as far as I know, most of this stuff is correct, but if you see any errors, let us know. You won't hurt our feelings any. Anyhow, have a good day.